I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to agree to an open relationship. For most of my life, I clung tightly to the idea of monogamy, of being enough for one person, and having them be enough for me. I believed in the fairy tale, in exclusivity, in building something that didn't require the thrill of others to keep it alive. But I wasn't naive, not completely. I knew relationships changed, evolved, and sometimes fell apart. I just never thought mine would fracture by my own consent. Her name is Amelia. Or was. I still can't say it without my chest tightening a little. We met during college, both starved for real connection in a sea of flings and half-hearted almosts. She had this energy, wild but thoughtful, artistic without the chaos. She painted in the mornings, made pancakes like a ritual, and quoted obscure books like they were scripture. I loved her more than I ever thought I was capable of loving someone. For the first 3 years, everything was good. Not perfect, but good in the way that makes you want to stay. We argued sometimes about the future, about how I was too comfortable, and how she sometimes felt boxed in. I never saw those as red flags. I saw them as the kind of friction that meant we were real. And then one night, she brought it up. We had just come back from a dinner with friends. There'd been wine. There'd been talk of flirtatious, a little reckless. I had seen the way she smiled at one of our friends, the guy named Jordan. Not inappropriate, not crossing any lines, but different. I didn't say anything. Maybe I should have. We were brushing our teeth when she said it. Have you ever thought about opening this up? I remember how the toothpaste suddenly tasted bitter. I looked at her in the mirror, half expecting her to laugh, but she didn't. Her eyes were clear. Honest. At least just to talk about it, she added. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake while she breathed steadily beside me. My mind was doing laps over everything we had, everything we could lose, and whether saying no would make me the villain in a story I didn't ask to be part of. By morning, I still didn't have a real answer. We talked. For hours. Days. Weeks, even. She was gentle, patient. She said she loved me, that this wasn't about replacing me, but expanding what love could look like. That monogamy sometimes felt like wearing a jacket that was a size too small. She said she was curious, not unhappy. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to make her happy. God, I wanted that more than anything. So I said yes. We made rules. We read books. We set boundaries. No overnights. No mutual friends. Always communicate. Always be honest. We'd go slow. Ease into it. At first, it was fine. Quietly uncomfortable, but manageable. I went on a couple of dates, mostly just to keep things balanced. Nothing serious. A few drinks, a few laughs. I didn't want to fall for anyone else. I was still anchored to her. But Amelia, she lit up. She started seeing someone 2 weeks in. A guy she met through an art workshop. His name was Nolan. I remember because she mentioned it so casually, like she was telling me about a new cafe. He's sweet. Interesting. Nothing serious, she said. But it became serious. Too serious. She saw him again. And again. She started texting more, coming home later, humming songs I didn't recognize. At first, I told myself I was imagining things. That this was part of the process. That the discomfort was natural and temporary. Then she stopped initiating touch with me. The long hugs in the kitchen faded. Our sex life, once vibrant and playful, shriveled into awkward silences and polite excuses. I asked her if something was wrong. She said no, just tired. Always tired. I tried harder. Planned little date nights, made her favorite meals, wrote her a letter like I used to when we first met. She smiled when she read it, even cried a little. But that night, she still didn't crawl into bed with me. Said she was working on a piece in the studio. I found out 3 days later she'd been with him that night. That was the first time I felt something crack in me. I confronted her. Not with anger, not at first, but with confusion, fear, and heartbreak. She apologized. Said she got caught up, lost track of time. That it wasn't about him. That it was about her. That she was discovering things about herself. That she loved me. I wanted to believe her. So I stayed. But over time, she became a shadow of the woman I knew, or maybe I became a shadow of the man she used to love. I watched her drift, one foot in our life and the other somewhere far beyond me. Her eyes were elsewhere, even when she sat across from me at dinner. Her smile felt curated. Her laughter never reached me anymore. There was a night I'll never forget. I came home early. I'd left work early just to surprise her. I had flowers, Chinese food, and a stupid little handwritten note. When I walked in, I heard her laughing in the living room. He was there. On our couch. Holding her hand. They didn't see me right away. I stood frozen, like a ghost, watching them in our space. She wasn't doing anything wrong, not by our rules, but it still felt like betrayal. Like the rules had protected her freedom but left me naked in the cold. When she saw me, her face changed. Not in guilt, but in discomfort. Like I was the intruder. We fought that night. Really fought. The kind where everything you've bottled up erupts all at once. I said things I didn't mean. She said things she probably did. She told me she didn't recognize herself anymore, that she felt like she was finally alive for the first time in years. That what we had started to suffocate her, and she didn't even know it until she stepped outside of it. I asked her if she still loved me. She said yes. I asked her if she loved him. She didn't answer. Eventually, Nolan left her. Or maybe she left him, I never got the full story. But when it ended, she didn't come back to me. Not really. She cried a lot. Drank more. Didn't paint for weeks. Said she felt empty, lost. Said she didn't know who she was anymore. I tried to comfort her. Tried to be the steady thing she could fall back into. But something had shifted in both of us. I couldn't unsee the distance she had chosen. She couldn't undo the self she had uncovered. I don't know exactly when it ended. There wasn't a clean break, no big dramatic goodbye. It was a slow fading. Like watching fog roll in, until one day you look around and realize you can't see anything clearly anymore. She moved out 3 months later, said she needed to find herself out again. I stayed in the apartment. Walked past her empty studio every morning. Kept her paintings on the wall for a while. Like maybe they'd keep her memory from decaying completely. Eventually, I took them down. It felt like burying a body. It's been a year. People ask me if I'd ever try an open relationship again. I say no. Not because I think they can't work, maybe they can. For some people. But for me, love needs roots. And what we had became too uprooted, too fast. I gave her what she wanted. I opened the door. I stood aside while she walked through it. But what none of us expected was that on the other side of that door, she would lose herself. And I would lose her anyway. So here I am. Still believing in love. But no longer in the kind that asks you to watch the person you love fall apart while pretending it's progress. There's a strange silence that comes after a breakup like that. Not just the absence of someone's voice or footsteps in your space, but a silence inside yourself. I didn't know what to do with all the quiet. I had built my life around being with her, my routines, my jokes, my sense of the future. When she left, all of that stayed, like furniture in a room where no one lives anymore. I tried dating again. It felt mechanical. I'd sit across from someone at a bar, smile, ask the right questions, laugh at the right times. But inside, I was somewhere else. Every conversation felt like an audition I hadn't prepared for. And every time someone touched my hand or looked at me a little too long, I flinched. One woman I met, Hera, was lovely. Funny, sharp, emotionally open in a way that I admired. She could sense something in me, though, the fracture I thought I was hiding. After 3 dates, she said I seemed like I was still in love with someone I was trying to forget. She wasn't angry, just honest. I respected that. I respected her enough not to lie. I think about Amelia more than I care to admit. Not every day, not like before, but in strange moments. I'll hear a song she used to hum, or see someone in a scarf like hers, or walk past an art gallery and wonder if her work is somewhere on those walls. Sometimes I imagine she's happy. Other times, I imagine she's just as lost as she was when she walked away. There's a part of me, the selfish part, that hopes she regrets it, that she looks back and sees what we had, what we could have kept. But a deeper part of me knows she probably doesn't. Or if she does, it's complicated and buried beneath layers of identity and freedom and grief. I can't blame her entirely. That's the hardest part. She didn't cheat on me. She didn't lie. She told me what she needed, and I agreed even when I wasn't ready, even when I knew deep down that it would hurt. I don't hate her. I think I did for a while, but hate always felt too loud, too consuming. What I feel now is quieter. Like take after a wound has closed, not pain, exactly, but the memory of it. The tenderness of healing. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd said no. If I'd drawn a hard line and said, "This isn't for me," would she have stayed? Would she have resented me? Would we have withered under the pressure of trying to keep someone who wanted to be elsewhere? There's no answer. That's life, I guess, a series of choices, and the alternate lives they quietly erase. I've started painting. That probably sounds ironic, or poetic, or maybe just sad. But I think part of me needed to find some way to connect with the piece of her that lingered. I'm not good. Not like she was. But it helps. The motion, the color, the way you can lose yourself in it. I get it now. Why she loved it. Maybe that's what this is all about. Not losing yourself in someone else, but finding yourself in the pieces they leave behind. I don't know if I'll fall in love again. I want to. But I know now that love isn't just about compatibility or chemistry. It's about timing. It's about wanting the same shape of life. I gave my heart to someone whose idea of love required more space than I had to give, and that doesn't make her a villain, and it doesn't make me weak. It just makes us a story that couldn't hold. A few weeks ago, I got an email from her. Just a line, "I saw one of your paintings online." It was beautiful. No sign-off. No follow-up. I stared at it for 10 minutes, then archived it without replying. Not out of anger, but because I knew nothing I could say would make sense. We'd become echoes in each other's lives, and sometimes echoes are better left unreturned. I still have one of her canvases in the back of my closet. It's unfinished, just a background of deep blues and streaks of orange. I used to think I'd finish it one day, but now I think it's better left as it is. And finished out like us. And maybe that's okay. I've come to realize that grief doesn't always come from death. Sometimes, it comes from watching something you love slowly slip away, not in one sharp moment, but in 1,000 soft ones. And sometimes, the cruelest part is knowing it didn't end because of a lack of love. It ended because love wasn't enough. Not the kind we had anyway. There's a myth we tell ourselves when we fall in love. That if the feelings are strong enough, if the bond is deep enough, then everything else, timing, fears, ambitions, will just fall into place. But love isn't gravity. It doesn't pull things into orbit all on its own. I think Amelia and I both believed the myth at first. We loved each other deeply. Passionately, stupidly. We made promises in the dark and plans in the morning light. But eventually, we wanted different things, and neither of us knew how to say that without hurting the other. So instead, we dressed up compromise as courage. We called it growth. The truth is, we were afraid. She was afraid of feeling trapped. I was afraid of losing her. So she asked for freedom. And I gave it to her, thinking that if I let her fly, she'd come back. But not everyone returns. Now, a year and a half later, I've learned to live with the silence. My apartment is smaller now, a choice I made when I realized I didn't need all the space we used to fill together. I sold the old couch. Bought a new bed. Repainted the walls. Small rituals of reclaiming. I've started sleeping better. There's a woman I've been seeing, Alina. She's nothing like Amelia. She's quiet in the way that makes you lean in, patient. She asks questions and actually listens to the answers. She doesn't rush me, doesn't demand that I become anything I'm not ready to be. We've only been seeing each other for a few months. It's slow, tentative, but good. One night, she asked me, "Have you ever been in love before?" I nodded. Yeah, she didn't ask for the story. She just took my hand and said, "I hope it was worth it." I didn't know what to say. Because how do you measure worth when the thing that shaped you is also the thing that broke you? But the more I sat with it, the more I realized it was worth it. Not because it ended well, but because it taught me who I am. What I need. What I can survive. Loving Amelia showed me how far I could stretch for someone. Losing her taught me where I need to draw the line. I still paint. Not every day, but often enough to feel like I'm building something. Alina likes to sit on the floor and sketch while I work. Sometimes we play old vinyl records, sometimes we talk about nothing for hours, and sometimes we say nothing at all, just exist beside each other. There's peace in that. One evening, I pulled out the unfinished canvas from the closet. The one Amelia left behind. I stared at it for a long time. Not out of longing anymore, but curiosity. Then, I added a single white streak across the bottom of the horizon. It wasn't closure. Just a mark. A sign that something was there. That it mattered. That it changed. Maybe I'll add more someday. Maybe I won't. But now I understand that not all stories need endings. Some just need to be acknowledged. Witnessed. Carried gently into the next chapter. And if I ever see Amelia again, if our paths cross in some city or bookstore or gallery, I hope I'll be able to smile. Not with bitterness. Not with longing. But with quiet gratitude. Because I gave her what she wanted. And in doing so, I found what I needed. Spring came late this year. I hadn't noticed how long winter had lasted until the first real breeze of April brushed against my window and carried in the smell of grass and new things. I opened the windows, even though it was still a little cold, just to let that air touch my skin. It felt like permission to start again, to feel something else. I think there's a version of healing people don't talk about enough. The version where you're mostly okay, but there are still little cracks that catch the light when no one's looking. The way a certain laugh reminds you of someone. Or the way you still hesitate before telling someone your full truth, as if your heart has learned to flinch before it opens. That's where I've been living. Not broken. Not whole. Just learning how to breathe without bracing for pain. Alina is still around. Somehow, she's managed to hold space for me without ever asking me to rush. That's something rare. She doesn't want me to be healed for her. She just wants me to be honest. And sometimes, when she sleeps on my shoulder and I can feel her breath against my skin, I forget what it felt like to be unloved. But the ghost of Amelia still visits. Not as often. Not as painfully. But sometimes, in the quiet moments, like when I make coffee exactly how she liked it, without thinking, or when I hear someone in a bookstore ask about a painting. And the memory of her voice answering echoes in my mind. I don't push those moments away anymore. I let them come. I greet them like an old scar that still tingles in the cold. They're part of me. She's part of me. One night, I dreamt about her. She was barefoot in a field, painting with her fingers, laughing like she used to. But when I tried to reach her, I couldn't move. I stood there, watching, and she never turned around. In the dream, I felt peace, not sadness, not longing, just the stillness of knowing she was okay. That wherever she ended up, she found a version of herself that didn't have to choose between love and freedom. When I woke up, I lay in bed for a long time. Alina stirred beside me and whispered, "Bad dream." "No," I said. "Just one I needed." We went to an art show a few weeks later, a small, local exhibit in a downtown loft. I hadn't planned on going, but Alina insisted. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe nothing. But near the back wall, there was a piece that stopped me. I knew it was Amelia's before I even read the name. Her style was unmistakable, wild strokes with precise chaos. This one was darker than most of what I remembered. Deep violets, bleeding into ash gray and something that looked like gold struggling to surface. The plaque said, "Gravity isn't love." Alina touched my arm. "Is that her?" I nodded. "Yeah." She looked at the painting, then at me. "It's beautiful." And it was dotted hurt. But it was beautiful. I didn't take a photo. I didn't reach out. I just stood there for a while, quietly thankful not for what happened, but for what came after. For the growth. For the stillness. For the love I didn't think I'd be ready for again. I don't know where Amelia is now. I don't know if she's in love, or alone, or living out of a suitcase somewhere with paint under her fingernails. I don't think I need to know. The part of me that once ached for answers is softer now, quieter. And maybe that's what healing really looks like, not forgetting, not replacing, but learning how to hold space for what once was, without needing it to be what it was ever again. I still have that old and finished canvas. Every now and then, I pull it out, study it, and wonder if it needs more. But lately, I've come to believe it might already be complete. Just like me. This morning, I found an old sweater of hers tucked deep in my storage box. One I hadn't seen in months, maybe years. It still smelled faintly like her cedarwood, citrus, and paint. The scent had faded, but somehow it still hit me like a small wave. I didn't cry. I just sat there with it in my hands, quietly remembering. There was a time when finding something of hers would have broken me. Sent me spiraling back into questions without answers. Now, it just felt like finding a chapter in a book I've already finished. A little ache, a little warmth. No need to reread, just a nod to where I've been. It's strange how we carry people. Even after they've left, even after we've healed, even after we've learned how to laugh again without guilt. They stay in the little things. In the way we fold our laundry. In the way we pause before saying "I love you" again, because we know what that promise can cost. But maybe that's not a burden. Maybe that's the gift. We're not meant to leave love unscarred. We're meant to be changed by it. To be cracked open and reshaped, so that when someone new walks in, they don't get the version of us that's still looking backward, they get the one that has survived the storm. Alina came over later, and I told her about the sweater. I told her the truth, that it caught me off guard but didn't hurt the way it once would have. She didn't get jealous. She didn't shrink. She simply asked, "What did you do with it?" I smiled. "I put it back in the box. Not because I need it, but because it belonged to a time that mattered. And I'm not ready to throw that away." She nodded. No judgment. Just quiet understanding. That's when I knew something had shifted. Not in her, in me. I wasn't just recovering anymore. I was living again. I took her hand and kissed her forehead, not because I was trying to fill a space that used to belong to someone else, but because she'd carved out her own. Slowly, steadily, gently. It's not the kind of love that sweeps you off your feet. It's the kind that keeps showing up. The kind that holds your hand when you remember the past and still chooses to stay for the present. And maybe that's the real ending. Not some dramatic closure. Not a letter or a sudden epiphany. Just this quiet, steady knowing that I gave what I could. That I lost something real. That I found something better. Not louder. Not brighter. Just better for who I am now. So here I am, alive, healing. Loving not despite the past, but because of it.